president! Stay on the block! Is there any way you can lock the doors?
And starting to heal. In depth tonight, under fire. Colorado tells the NRA to go away, and how this massacre could affect gun laws where you live. Plus, a deadly missile attack knocks Serb television off the air as NATO marks 50 years and vows no mercy for Milosevic.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw.
Good evening. Tonight, authorities in Colorado are raising the strong possibility that there were more than just the two young gunmen responsible for the massacre at Columbine High. This on a day when the 9/11 tapes from that afternoon of horror were released, when parents began to make arrangements or to bury their children, and when the district attorney of Jefferson County made an impassioned plea to America about guns and how they are everywhere. We begin tonight with NBC's Jim Avila on the widening investigation. Jim, what do you have for us?
Well, Tom, the more police learn about the bombs inside that school building, the more they believe someone else was involved. And tonight, law enforcement sources are telling NBC News they have identified a new suspect, a third suspect, not yet charged, who's telling them that others helped in the attack. Federal and local authorities now believe America's worst high school shooting is the work of a handful, more than two conspirators. NBC News has learned police have identified a third suspect who, according to law enforcement sources directly involved in the investigation, has told detectives other students knew about and helped carry out the attack on Columbine High School, assisting Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold in a conspiracy to kill as many students as possible and burn their school to the ground.
I've got every student in this library on the block. You better stay on the block. Is there any way you can lock the doors? Smoke is coming in from out there, and I'm okay. The gun is right outside the library door, okay? I don't think I'm going to go out there.
The horror heard on these 911 tapes released today, the sound of disaster, veteran bomb experts tell NBC News, was definitely the work of more than two people. Investigators say the huge bomb found yesterday in the school kitchen is too heavy for only two people to carry.
I think we have to have answers for how these things got there, when they got there, and how they got moved. And I think the possibility is that they had assistance.
Bomb experts inside the school tell NBC News the two suspects who died in the attack carried pipe bombs in two backpacks and hid other bombs in a car parked outside, returning to the car during the attack to get more bombs. Sources also say the two suspects rigged 8 to 10 homemade grenades to their vests, CO2 cans topped with gunpowder and a match, ignited by striking the match against flint-like material attached to their coats, a system designed to allow them to shoot with one hand and throw grenades with the other simultaneously, something bomb experts say they've never seen before. One of the founders of the group, called the Trenchcoat Mafia, tells NBC News 4 of them have been questioned by police. Joseph Stair says none of the other Trenchcoat Mafia knew of the specific plan to attack the school, but did expect some revenge on athletes at Columbine High after 4 years of battles.
We hated each other. We really did. The athletes would threaten us, leave notes in lockers. As they were driving by, they'd throw glass bottles and rocks and things at us. And so their large hatred built up between the two groups.
Stair says Harris and Klebold asked for no help. He says some members of the Trenchcoat Mafia, including himself, did make pipe bombs frequently as, quote, something to do. But he says the two suspects knew enough about planning an attack and making bombs to pull it off alone.
They knew how to make just about every type of explosive that you can make using household products.
Bomb experts inside the building tell NBC News the two suspected shooters died together in a back corner of the library, both victims of self-inflicted shotgun blasts, their weapons all around them. As for the guns, law enforcement sources tell NBC News that one of the two shotguns was purchased by an unidentified woman, and that the other two of the other guns, a carbine rifle and a handgun, were purchased at area Denver gun stores, and that they are not identifying any of those buyers. Tom?
Thanks very much. Jim Avila tonight in Littleton, Colorado. Among the first to respond to the calls for help were members of the Denver SWAT team, Special Weapons and Tactics. They take the most dangerous assignments, and tonight, Dateline's Stone Phillips talks with Captain Vince DiMana and other members of the first SWAT team on the scene.
This was really a makeshift outfit.
Right.
Some had equipment, some didn't have that much equipment. What kind of protection did you have with you?
The soft body armor that officers wear underneath their uniforms. And I had my off-duty weapon with me.
That's Captain DeMona there in the blue shirt. As they made their way toward the front door, they knew they were facing bombs and booby traps.
That they were on the roof, that they were in the front of the school, that they were in the back of the school. We didn't know where the suspects were.
Worried those open front doors could be a trap, they found another way. They split up. 6 men ducked in to establish the first foothold inside the building. Remaining with the truck, Captain DeMona headed for the sound of gunfire around the school toward the library.
There was a little girl there. We got to her first. I picked her up. I was holding her in my arms, and I was starting to lift her. And her head fell to the side, and I saw her wounds, and it was obvious she was mortally wounded. She was gone. So I said, let's get up to this. Let's get up to the boy here. I got up to him. I saw he had a chest wound, and it looked like he also had a wound in his shoulder. I tried to talk to him. I said, so that's where the police were getting out of here, but we're going to get you out of here.
As they retreated with the boy, a homemade explosive device rolling toward them went off.
I felt the warm, and I couldn't figure out what was spraying me in the face. It felt like gravel.
This was shrapnel from a pipe bomb.
Right.
The scene inside made it extremely difficult to hear, to see, to communicate with one another.
The automatic sprinkler heads were spraying. The area was flooding. Fire alarm had been set off, and the real shrill, loud, piercing alarm was going off.
There's a perception that the SWAT teams didn't move fast enough, waited too long to go into this school.
There has to be a controlled movement through there. You can't have people, SWAT teams, running through a building where you have both suspects and hostages that aren't defined.
Be much more of Stone Phillips' report tonight on Dateline at 9 Eastern Time. And when we come back, why the mayor of Denver does not want the NRA to meet in his city.
It would seem to me that good manners would dictate not to come into a place that's suffering the kind of tragedy and grieving and loss that this community is now suffering.
Will the tragedy in Colorado create a backlash against the gun lobby? We'll have some answers for you tonight in depth. And direct hit. Serbian TV knocked off the air by NATO warplanes. What's behind this attack? What's next?
With the blades set nearly, those first ice boats had a lot of speed, but not a whole lot of control. Oh, geez. Learn the hard way. Wider is better.
With its speed-sensitive steering technology, the White Track Grand Prix gives you precise cornering and control.
Better, better.
Wider is better. The White Track Grand Prix by Pontiac. Now you can lease the Grand Prix GT sedan for just $269 a month. See your Pontiac dealer today.
What should you do if you're having a heart attack? First, call an ambulance, then take Bear aspirin. Now Bear may help stop you from dying when taken during a heart attack. Talk to your doctor now. Bear, powerful pain relief, and so much more.
You're the perfect pair. Get together for delicious lobster and shrimp. Side by side for a short time, priced at just $12.99. Escape to Red Lobster.
There are certain things your body is going through that the chemo is doing to you. I was tired, very, very tired. One time, my grandchildren were all over, and they all went out and got ice cream. And they're all lined up on the porch, all with ice cream. They start from the age of 3 all the way up to 18 years of age. What a photograph that had to be. I did not have the energy to go upstairs to grab the camera. I missed the photograph. To me, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Live your life. That's what I'm doing now.
You know there's nothing that I'd rather do than to be with you, talking with the stars. It's the way you make me smile and tell me who you are. Yeah, it's Regis and Kathy Lee.
Weekdays at 9.
9 on News Channel 8.
NBC News in depth tonight. Does the tragedy in Colorado make the case for more gun control? The deadly shootings at Columbine High have reignited that debate. In fact, today in Littleton, the local district attorney pleaded for a crackdown on guns.
It was so simple to get them. Guns are everywhere. You can buy them on the street. You can get them anywhere you want. You can steal them. They're readily available. You can go to gun shows. You can have your friends go to gun shows if you're underage. They're very easy to acquire.
It's estimated there are 250 million guns, legal and illegal, now in circulation in this country. But will these shootings in Littleton lead to tougher gun laws? Would any law really make it harder for kids like the boys who opened fire at Columbine to get their hands on guns? NBC's Pete Williams begins tonight's in-depth reporting.
The searing images from Columbine High have the nation's gun lobby on the defensive tonight. The National Rifle Association is scaling back its annual convention planned for Denver next weekend. But the mayor doesn't want the NRA coming to his city at all.
It would seem to me that good manners would dictate not to come into a place that's suffering the kind of tragedy and grieving and loss that this community is now suffering.
Since the shooting, Colorado's legislature has stopped debate on a bill to loosen standards for carrying concealed weapons. And the shooting has put pro-gun bills on hold for now in Florida and a few other states. But are these temporary setbacks or signs of tough times to come for the gun industry? Congress usually tightens federal gun laws only after a crisis, like the 1968 shootings of Robert Kennedy and Martin Luther King. The attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan led to the Brady Law, and the 1989 shooting at a Stockton, California school that killed 5 children led to a ban on making new assault weapons. Now the Clinton administration wants to ban gun sales to any adult who committed a serious crime as a juvenile.
And I think if a person, however old, commits a violent crime, that person should not be allowed to possess a gun.
But opponents say gun control isn't the answer, that half a dozen state and federal laws, apparently all violated in Littleton, fail to stop the shootings.
The heart of the problem isn't guns or access to guns, because kids always have had access to guns. But they weren't always shooting each other.
Even so, some in Congress now believe that even if they can't keep guns away from children, they must at least try again to get the most deadly guns off the market. Pete Williams, NBC News, Washington.
There is, in fact, a relatively simple device that can make guns less dangerous, especially to children. Tonight, in conjunction with the Wall Street Journal, NBC's Robert Hager reports on why gun makers don't like this device.
Sergeant Mark Vickers likes the new safety lock just issued for handguns carried by 2,500 Boston police. Gives them peace of mind off duty.
My kids are getting older, their friends come in the house, and what we're trying to do is make everybody safe.
The $70 lock on the magazine of some guns on the side of others works like this, according to its developer, ex-Marine Frank Brooks. First lock.
You can't pull this trigger or pull this hammer, fire the firearm. The combination on this is 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. So
now ready to fire. But Brooks has failed to persuade manufacturers to install his lock at the factory.
I think what scares them is if they put it on their guns. They're acknowledging that it is needed and it's a good lock. Once you do that, then they feel the left wing is going to say, why shouldn't these be mandated?
Gun makers deny that.
Well, that sounds like sort of a self-centered claim. Firearms manufacturers, like all manufacturers, get many submissions from inventors, and they're not all good ideas, and they can't incorporate all of them.
80% of guns do now come with some simple kind of lock, trigger blockers that require a key to open, or cables that block the gun barrel. But some worry gun owners won't use these simpler locks because the gun can't be kept loaded and ready. Others, like the maker of the new combination lock, say that as long as there are acts of violence, like the one at Columbine High, other more innovative ways must be found to keep guns that fall into the wrong hands from being fired at all. Robert Hager, NBC News, Washington.
Up next, the other big story of the day. The presidents gather in Washington along with foreign ministers and heads of state. The war rages on in Yugoslavia. What was supposed to be NATO's birthday turns into a serious war summit.
I never thought when my son moved away that I wouldn't see him for 3 years. It's just a tractor for my grandson. But this trip I wasn't going to miss. when he's older. My son had built his own life.
Hey, Dad.
He got a John Deere.
Of course.
But he still appreciates where he came from.
The LT-133 from John Deere. At under $2,000, it's possibly the best lawn tractor ever built. And it's the only one with a past as bright as its future.
We all have everyday needs. That's why One-A-Day has specialized blends of herbs, vitamins, and minerals for things like energy or less tension. Special formulas that are just what you need to feel your best.
I'm on an all-night flight when suddenly, terrible heartburn. The guy in the next seat says, here, try this. Zantac 75. Thanks, I say. You know, maybe I ought to see a doctor about this heartburn. He says, you just did.
The medicine in Zantac 75 is the #1 doctor-prescribed acid reducer. It relieves even your toughest heartburn, controlling acid for up to 12 hours.
Thanks, doctor. Wherever you are.
Zantac 75 for tough heartburn. Doctors know.
Enterprise rent-a-car for my trip? Looks expensive.
It's not expensive, Mom.
They pick us up? Sounds expensive.
Pickup's free, Mom.
Well, if it's not expensive, why didn't I get a convertible?
Pick Enterprise. We'll pick you up.
When your allergies are a nightmare, you need help. Not just any help. You need the power of Zyrtec. Prescription Zyrtec goes to work and keeps on working for 24 hours. And Zyrtec's the only leading prescription antihistamine approved for both indoor and outdoor allergies, from cats and dogs to dust and pollen. In studies, drowsiness was the most common side effect. Others included fatigue and dry mouth. Most side effects were mild or moderate. Most people weren't bothered by them enough to stop taking Zyrtec. To learn more, ask your doctor or pharmacist, or see our ad in Life magazine. So when allergies are a nightmare, and when are they not? Remember the power of Zyrtec.
Sunday, the trouble with America's children. Janet Reno, Tipper Gore, Bill Bennett, Pat Buchanan, and Senator Lieberman speak out. Also, Prime Minister Tony Blair on Kosovo on Beat the Press.
Washington is suffering from limousine gridlock tonight, overrun with presidents and prime ministers and dignitaries of every stripe, all gathered for the 50th anniversary of NATO. Planning for this has been going on for months, but it's not the celebration that organizers had in mind. Joining me now from the State Department is NBC's diplomatic correspondent, Andrea Mitchell. Andrea?
Tom, you're right. It was supposed to be a giant birthday party, but instead, today's NATO summit is a council of war. NATO's first war, and a war that officials know is not going according to plan. With great fanfare, 42 heads of state assembled. More leaders than Washington has seen since the funeral of John F. Kennedy. They meet in the same hall where NATO was created a half-century ago. For NATO today, the stakes could not be higher. Defeat Milosevic or face extinction as a credible force.
The alliance will not have meaning in the 21st century if it permits the slaughter of innocents on its doorstep.
They talk for 3 hours, produce a statement of unity. NATO will not compromise on its demands. They agree to intensify the pressure on Belgrade and Milosevic himself. Officials say that means more targets like Serb TV, hit hard overnight, and Milosevic's home, his party headquarters, and family businesses. They call for an oil embargo, but no blockade to enforce it. And NATO welcomes Russia's help to broker a peace deal, but rejects an initial offer from Milosevic as not good enough.
We cannot, and we will not, stand by and let this hideous policy of ethnic cleansing succeed.
Officials say they spend only minutes discussing a ground war, a subject on which there is no agreement. In public, NATO's supreme commander is confident.
In short, we're winning, he's losing, and he knows it.
But sources tell NBC News General Clark is quietly urging members of Congress to keep pressing for a ground option, because even once plans are made, it would take months before a ground force could be in place. NATO's most important message tonight, the Allies will prevail. But the leaders cannot say how long it will take or at what cost. Tom?
Andrea Mitchell, thank you very much. Now we have more tonight on the U.S. missile attack on the headquarters of Serbia's state television. The Serbs claim that 10 people were killed and 20 injured. U.S. officials say it is a legitimate target. We get more now from NBC's Ron Allen, who's on the scene in Belgrade.
The propaganda war turns deadly. 8 NATO cruise missiles demolished the nerve center of Serb TV, the studio and control room broadcasting the Milosevic viewpoint. The back of the building blown away. Reporters and technicians trapped under tons of rubble. Outrage from survivors who say they were just doing their jobs.
Don't tell us about propaganda. My statements in the war, we have to tell the truth about killing, destroying, and so on.
The employees knew that Serb TV was on NATO's target list, yet authorities say as many as 100 workers were on duty, a higher number than in normal times. Additional staff, ironically, here to cover the war.
Employees say they never believed NATO would bomb civilians at a television station. NATO says it was a legitimate target, aimed at stopping Serb propaganda. In fact, the missiles knocked a pre-taped interview by President Milosevic off the air.
Serb TV is as much a part of Milosevic's murder machine as his military is.
But the bombing disturbs many broadcasters who say targeting the media under any circumstances crosses a line.
We are outraged by this, and we feel that it will permanently harm press freedom and freedom of expression around the world.
And while NATO missiles destroyed the station, they didn't silence Serb TV for long. Programs resumed 6 hours later, broadcast from a secret location. And now Serb TV News shows pictures of its own destruction, another act of defiance against NATO. Ron Allen, NBC News, Belgrade.
On Wall Street today, the Dow was down 37.5 points. That's 0.35% of its value. NASDAQ was up 29 points. That's a gain of about 1% on this day alone. For the week, the Dow was up 195 points, almost 2% for the week. NASDAQ ended a wild week up 106 points. That's a gain of more than 4% for the week. When we come back, the first memorial service for one of the Columbine victims. Much-loved son, dead at 16.
My architect, we wanted a place that reflects the direction our business is heading. Could she design a space where ideas can't help but collide, where the techie and the dreamer both feel at home, and work is what you escape to, not from. Bottom line, we consider this place our secret weapon.
When you want an architect to build on your vision, call a member of the American Institute of Architects, AIA Architects, building on your vision.
Chevy Tahoe, like a rock.
Our latest innovation springs from a very old idea, that heat cleans better. And so, Bissell introduces the first and only upright deep cleaner with an onboard heater. A common sense idea to make cleaning even cleaner. The new Power Steamer Pro Heat Plus from Bissell. Life's messy. Clean it up.
Used to be, if I want something done right, I called me. It worked. Until I tried to quit smoking. I needed more than me. I got Nicorette. Nicorette helped me 2 ways. I used it on a regular schedule to help prevent my cravings, and for unexpected cravings, I was ready with an extra piece. I used to be a slave to cigarettes. Nicorette helped me hang on, helped me win. Now that I'm nicotine-free, I gotta tell you, it feels good to win.
Now, Nicorette is available in mint. What a refreshing choice. You can do it. Nicorette can help.
What? You got more than me.
Honey Nut Quaker Toasted Oatmeal, crisp oatmeal flakes, clusters, and honey roasted almonds. You haven't wanted a cereal this badly since you were a kid.
The time to comfort a community. the fight to save a people, the tragedy in Colorado, and the crisis in Kosovo. All weekend on MSNBC.
This weekend on Today, our Trials of the Century series continues with the Rosenbergs. Did they spy for the Soviets? The inside story on Trials of the Century this weekend on Today.
This has been a week that will never end for the people of Littleton, Colorado, especially for the expanded family of Columbine High. It will stay with them forever, but for now, they are trying to get through it with simple ceremonies of remembrance, a makeshift memorial, shared tears and hugs, and the beginning of what will be a succession of funerals. NBC's Roger O'Neill tonight.
Today, it really hurt. Today, the tears wouldn't stop. A final goodbye, the first of 15 in the next few days. First to John Thomas. He was 16, a sophomore. His dad said he was just good. This is Michelle, his girlfriend.
I don't know where to start, but the biggest impact John had on me was how much he cared about me. And how much he would do anything in the world to make me smile and to make me happy.
From the church pastor, a challenge.
Evil can be overwhelming, and evil invites more evil. Do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good.
Mackay Hall says he doesn't hate the student who shot him. He knew Dylan Klebold.
I thought he was an all right guy. I don't know. I worked with him sometimes. And he wasn't the kind of person that he's being portrayed as.
But Hall can't explain what made the student he knew hate so much. Nor can friends of the Klebold family, but messages of support today for them.
I'll take what happened Tuesday to my grave.
Neither can Frank DeAngelis, the principal of Columbine High, who says he didn't know the two students at the center of the massacre, hadn't been told they were in police trouble, in fact, never heard of the so-called trenchcoat mafia, even though the group's picture was in his school's yearbook.
I hear all these stories about these 14 men in trench coats walking the halls of Columbine High School in their military.
You didn't know it?
It didn't happen. It's tearing me apart. I would step in the way of a bullet to protect our kids. They're my kids.
They're kids all of Denver now knows and grieves for, much like what happened in Oklahoma City 4 years ago. By ones and twos, people are drawn to the makeshift memorial near the high school to try to understand, to learn.
We've watched it on TV for the last few days, and I think sometimes to the kids, TV is just TV and it's not real. And I wanted them to see that it's real. Just that it could have happened anywhere.
And for many, all over the country, perhaps that's what is most troubling. Roger O'Neill, NBC News, Littleton.
That's Nightly News for this Friday. More on the tragedy in Colorado tonight on Dateline at 9 Eastern. I'm Tom Brokaw, and I'll see you back here Monday, if not before.
Nightly News is a presentation of NBC News. More Americans watch NBC News than any other news organization in the world.
Tracy's back Monday on Northwest News Channel 8. Tonight, the first place plays